Please let me in.
The world ended. Didn't you get the memo?
Come on, guys, let's go for a slice of pizza.
Yeah. So fetch. What is fetch?
Oh, it's like slang from England.
I'm Charlotte Blackwood.
I'm Maverick.
Maverick? Does your mother not like you or something?
Chunk is dead. Don't say that. Never say that. Goonies never say die.
Top news stories of the week. Time to find out once again with Megan Olson and News of the Week on the Al Travis Show.
Absolute favorite here on the program, Megan's News and Review. She takes the top stories that have been shared and reshared and tweeted or copy and pasted. I don't know what you people do. And they do that, and then we talk about them. Megan, how are you?
Good. I'm happy to be back. You know, we're staying on track with same subject of stories in the realm of fraud. So
See, but they get bigger all the time. That's what I find so fascinating. And you can vote whoever you want to vote for. But the idea that the person in charge for the last, 7 years of all of this thinks it's such a small idea. I'll just run. People love me. I'll do it again. And yet we're going to talk fraud again, right? That's what you're leading up with. Fraud again and more fraud and fraud. The fraud of the fraud.
yeah.
It's amazing to me. Go ahead. What do you got for a story today?
Well, yeah, I think we're just getting to the point where if there were, I think Merriam-Webster comes out with like a word of the year. If it were geolocated to just Minnesota, I think fraud would be that word.
Yes.
It is definitely going to be a cornerstone issue for 2026. KSTP yesterday just came out with a massive report that kind of breaks down more fraud that we're seeing. You know, it started with Feeding Our Future, the $250 million scandal. We moved into housing stabilization fraud. You know, we've got child center fraud. We've had the autism clinic fraud. All these different buckets of fraud, and things are kind of fast moving now as far as, you know, uncovering more of it. But I thought what was really interesting in KSTP's reporting is there was a whistleblower who spoke to KSTP and said that he brought this to folks' attention back in 2012. And he said, he, just has been sitting quietly by, and over the last couple years, he's finally feeling encouraged. But the fact that it took this long to get to this point where we're finally uncovering it is crazy to me, and it almost makes you think there's got to be more there too.
See, this is you said that it started with the Feeding Our Futures thing. I think that's when the rest of us start thinking about it. But this is the Child Care Assistance Program fraud that was 12 years ago. So this was 6 years pre the Feeding Our Futures thing. And basically this guy turns in and says, hey, they're saying they're helping people. There ain't no people here. And he turns it in. Literally, he's the whistleblower. And now for 12 years, he sits around doing nothing but watching, and nothing happens. Here's what I saw today, and this just drives me crazy. The legislative auditor, Judy Randall, she went with the KSTP for an interview, and she said her frustration, quoting, we would issue a report, we'd have these findings, and then we'd come back in a year or two and have the exact same findings over and over again. What we saw was that the regulatory role wasn't necessarily being prioritized within the culture of state agencies. I mean, no one cared. I have seen a shift in the last 6 months. You mean we've had this much since the CCP thing all the way, and now there's a shift. Does he say it's fixed? No, a shift. Shame on the auditor. Shame on them. If you saw this year after year and you weren't going to every legislator and saying, hey, we keep saying this is going on. KSTP, where were you? All these people that are now on board is nuts to me. You should be ashamed.
I think they're on board now. And I think Governor Walz is also on board because he's realizing this is such a critical issue. You have kind of his front runner, who's going to be running against him potentially on the Republican side as Kristen Robbins. She held a press conference yesterday, rolled out kind of her comprehensive plan for addressing fraud. She's in a unique spot because she chairs the House Fraud Committee. So she kind of already has rapport in that area. That's kind of her expertise. But then you have Walz, a couple of weeks ago or late this summer, coming out with an executive order that directed agencies particularly to intensify their fraud prevention measures. And out of that, you have the DHS that disenrolled 800 Medicare providers who haven't billed in the last year. Why didn't that happen prior to this executive order? Why were they still on the rolls after not, there should be an expiration date on that. And I'm not saying that there's fraud there. They're just kind of cleaning things up. But when there's a massive volume of providers and there's so much information, it's harder to see the fraud that's there. So why are we not proactively cleaning up those sorts of things so we can keep better eye and attention on where the money is going and who are the big players in the system?
See, and that's so brilliant. And then somebody please ask the governor, why at year 7? This has been going on for as long as this
because
guy
now he has to get reelected, Al.
Exactly. That's my point. It ranks hollow. He also comes out with an inspector general idea. Hey, I got this inspector general everybody's talking about. I think that's a great idea. The
That's
difference
not his
being,
idea.
well, for the words are, he's like, yeah, I'm going with the Heather Gustafson, Senator Gustafson plan. The only difference would being that person would report to me directly, which is exactly the opposite of a free inspector general to go look at stuff and do things. It's all smoke and mirrors, and it drives me absolutely bananas.
Well, and it also extends beyond the governor's race. You have people who are running for state auditor, Representative Dan Molgmont, who is talking about expanding that office's authority to investigate fraud. You have, other people who, right and left, that are campaigning on this on the House and the state Senate levels because they realize it's such a salient issue for voters. One in particular, Nat Smith, who's a Stillwater Democrat running against Karin Housley, he is talking about, protections for whistleblowers. He has a career as an attorney. He knows that fraud is top of people's minds, and he's using that to his advantage. So we're seeing this kind of be a uniting issue for Republicans and Democrats, but it's still a politicized issue because it's going to be entering into the campaign space now.
See, but it's that ringing hollow again. Every one of these senators and reps that are running should have to face somebody saying, when did you know and when did you do anything about it? Because we all agree fraud is bad, right? There's no one's, I'm sure happy fraud's going on. Everyone agrees it's bad. Then how are we arguing about fixing it and haven't fixed it in 7 years? Because we seriously, some people don't mind. Mm-hmm. There has to be. There's just some fight back. Why do we not have an inspector general that both Gustafson and the other side, everybody agreed this was a great idea. 60 senators out of 69?
It passed the Senate and then it stalled in the House, I believe, yeah.
How is that possible if we all hate fraud? My point is it's just lip service. And if we're going to do anything about it, Minnesota, here's me you see my finger wagging. If we're going to do anything about this, now is the time. When they come and they run, they ask for your vote, say, where do they sit? And they're going to tell you they're against fraud. Great. Where have you been on it then? If you're being reelected, where have you been? Where's the fight? And if you're new, what is it that you're going to do? And don't tell me I'm going to try really hard to hold fraud stops. No, we're done with fraud.
And Kristen Robbins really is the only candidate on, running for any sort of office that has rolled out this really comprehensive campaign. So I think we can kind of look to her, and I forget what provisions she had included in there.
There's
full audit of state programs, no fraud, no excuses culture. I think the culture shift is a big thing. But there's a lot to her plan that I think no other candidate really has because they don't have the work experience to support that.
Okay, I'll never get my DMV stuff done ever again. I thoroughly believe that if we can trace back to where these checks are going, and we can find that you had the belief there was fraud going on, but you still wrote the check, you can lose your job in the state of Minnesota. It has to be, I work for the state of Minnesota, that's all these people, and I will do all I can to protect their money. If we find you're not doing that, I think we have to find a way to say thank you for being here, go find a job somewhere else. And if we don't do that, this will keep going. You can't tell me $2 billion worth of checks. That's what almost $2 billion went out, and no one in state government thought, that seems strange. I don't believe that. I do not believe that.
Well, and then at the same time with the landscape, you have our Secretary of State kind of muddying the waters because you have the federal government who's asking for our voter rolls, and he is grandstanding and saying no, which, I mean, I think there's legal arguments on both sides, whatever, but if our voter rolls are so clean and we're so confident in that, why say no? And now he's testifying in various committees, and then we have the story from last year about some Minnesota woman voting for her dead mother. Doesn't really matter what party anyone's voting for, it's wrong. And her consequence is writing a paper on the importance of voting properly and having integrity in that, and then also reading a book about democracy.
See, and if she were in 11th grade and cheated on the presidential run for class president, fantastic penalty. Fantastic. You're going to write an essay. You know what? She's a full-grown woman. We have laws against it. I'm pretty sure the law isn't a minimum of writing a report. That's just crap. We don't take it seriously. Man, you kind of teed me off. Where was I going? I don't remember. The Simon thing. The squeaky rolls. If they're squeaky clean, why would you not share? I got my real ID, right? I got my real ID. There is nothing the state of Minnesota has on Al in my voter roll that the government doesn't have. Social Security, name, date of birth, where I live. The federal government has it. So what are you protecting? I don't understand, except the possibility there's some names in there that don't make no sense. Hey, isn't that guy dead? Yeah, why is he on there? Because it hasn't been proven to us. That's that voter protection thing he wants. You have to prove you're dead to get off the voter rolls. I got other things to do.
I think it all goes back to there needs to be cohesiveness in all government agencies and everything. You know, every little agency and every little committee, whatever, they all need to communicate. We need to, you know, if a death certificate is filed, okay, that information goes here, here, and here. And that's my whole thing about, you know, DHS eliminating these 800 Medicaid or whatever recipients from their rolls. If we have so much data, we can't keep an eye on everything. Right. We need to be constantly cleaning, making sure that things are tidy and organized so we can have that cross communication and that things are very clearly laid out between agencies.
Keep an eye on this. Senator Housley said this on the show this week, and you will find out if it happens. I doubt she'll call it the Al Travis law or whatever the bill, but she is putting in a bill because I said the same thing. There's no way the Minnesota who writes a death certificate, right? My dad passed. Write the death certificate. I got to order a dozen of them, whatever I need for real ones to hand out to the bank and all the rest of that. They know it. How is it they don't instantly send one of those good copies to Steinman? You know, they all work for the same Minnesota government and wipe them off the rolls. Evidently, that's not the way it happens right now. Yeah. So she's starting a bill to make sure that happens. She said she was. We'll find out. How cool would that be?
Sounds good. When we come back after the break, though, too, I mean, we're talking about fraud. We're going to talk about paid family leave because we've got all this fraud, but now we're going to introduce a big $800 million program. So let's see how that goes.
You need a friend at the Capitol who knows how to get things done.
And you're in luck because that's exactly who we are, your friends at the Capitol, and we deliver results.
At Momentum Advocacy, we bring decades of experience in lobbying, public affairs, and crisis communications.
From local nonprofits to national corporations, we help you move policy, manage your media, and make your voice heard.
We're not just seasoned pros, we're essential partners.
Momentum Advocacy, your friends at the Capitol. Learn more at momentum-advocacy.com.
Think about it. A famous politician once said, "You're entitled to your opinion, but you are not entitled to your own facts." But in a world full of AI and fake news, where can Minnesotans find the facts? Center of the American Experiment is Minnesota's go-to source for fact-based analysis and common sense solutions for taxes, energy, public safety, and our kids' education. Visit AmericanExperiment.org for more information. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
begins. The Al Travis Show. Nothing but talk.
I should throw out in the last 5 minutes, there will be $1 million scam idea coming away shortly. I've figured this all out, and I'm going to help everybody in Minnesota out. Megan, your story about the paid family leave.
Yeah, so a story, about paid family leave that starts in January. Walz is coming out saying he's very confident in the rollout. I think part of the reason why he's speaking on it, normally this would just be, okay, new law, new program, whatever, get swept under the rug. But kind of given the landscape of Minnesota and fraud being front of mind for many, big topic of conversation, a lot of people are questioning, how is this going to work? It's an $800 million program for paid family and medical leave. Just a massive program. You've got the chamber that's still opposing it. You've got the National Federation of Independent Businesses, so small businesses coming out too, trying to support all of these businesses and navigating how does this actually work. I actually work with a charter school as well, and they're navigating, do we go with the state system? Do we go with our own? There's a lot of chatter that the state system could be incredibly kind of crazy and not
kind of crazy
to navigate.
They don't even have a list of what fits. Does my step uncle Bob, who I always thought is my dad, fit when he gets sick, and can I take care of him?
Anyone who is considered family to you kind of falls under this purview. So you could have a really close friend who's sick and you take care of them. You could cash in on this.
So would you mind if I shared the $1 million scam? Because this is how this is going to work. We already know this works. You just got to find 2-3 people to work with you. So I'm going to create my new company, scamminnesota.com. I'm going to hire 3 people at $100,000 a year. I'm only using $100,000 of the math. Now, none of them are going to get paid because they're all in on this with me. And the first one comes in and says, my Uncle Bob got really sick. I've got to take time off. Take the next 6 months. That's what you get, the paid family leave. We're kicking in 1.5% of your taxes. Now, as Al, I'm only paying the 1.5%. I'm not paying this person their money because as soon as we send that in, she gets 70% of her cash through the paid family leave, 70%. She'll make $70,000. Got to kick me back some because you haven't done any work for me. And to cover and make sure my business is full, I hired her sister to do the same thing, who has to, quote, work for the 6 months, but doesn't. She isn't getting a check either. And then after that's done, the second gal says, my Uncle Bob's still sick. And she takes it off. She gets $70,000 a year. I have to pay the 1.5% tax is all I'm paying. And I'm asking that for kickbacks out of the $70K. You literally can pull more out than you ever put in. And you just got to come up with a list of names of people that are really close to you. My Uncle Bob.
Well, and the unfortunate thing about this is that so many businesses probably had a similar, if not better, paid family leave structure prior to this. And I'm all for paid family leave. I think it's a great thing, but I do think it's something that we should let the market determine. I think we should incentivize businesses to create that environment. And the reality is this law now has made the NFIB's uncertainty index rise 7 points, which basically means all of these small businesses are quite nervous. Their optimism index actually dropped. So I think it's something that I'm not so sure that the government coming in and stepping in will be a benefit. I mean, maybe to some, but I think it's those that had these benefits already existing with their company are kind of getting the short end of the stick, because now these big corporations or businesses that offered really generous leave are like, well, we don't have to do that anymore. We can just do the bare minimum right here.
Exactly. In a big
letting
business,
the fair market really determine.
The Targets of the world have enough employees. If someone wants to take that off, they can cover. If you had 5 employees and one goes away, 20% of your workforce, you almost have to have an extra 20% in case it happens so that you don't shut down. This is horrible on small business. Anyway, we're out of time. Mark my words, $1 million
talk
scam.
About the No Kings protest, but it's okay if we gloss over it.
All right, that's fair enough. We got to go. We got to fly. Thank you, Megan.
We'll be back next week talking about the top Minnesota news stories of the week on the Al Travis Show with Megan's News and Review.
Tired of one-sided media and divisive noise